Could we get to Mars in just 45 days? Scientists believe with the help of nuclear-powered engines it may be possible. For the first time in the last half-century, a nuclear-powered engine is going to be put through its paces. The designs for developing a nuclear-powered rocket that might take astronauts to Mars in just over a month have been made public by NASA. The organization which is working on the design of the rocket in collaboration with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, the United States Department of Defense. They declared on Tuesday, January 24th, that it might be able to construct a nuclear thermal rocket engine that is operational as early as 2027. The current rocket systems used by NASA, such as the Space Launch System, which last year was responsible for sending the Artemis 1 rocket on a historic round trip to the Moon, are based on the age-old, traditional method of chemical propulsion. This method involves the use of an oxidizer, which provides the reaction of more oxygen to combust with, and flammable rocket fuel, which is mixed to create a flaming jet of thrust. The proposed nuclear system, on the other hand, will utilize the chain reaction that results from breaking apart atoms in order to power a nuclear fission reactor. This reactor would be 3 or more times as efficient as the current one, and according to the agency, it could reduce the amount of time it takes to travel to Mars to a fraction of the current 7 months. DARPA and NASA, arguably the two best organizations in this field, have an extended history of collaboration in the advancement of technologies for our goals. Examples of this collaboration range from the Saturn V rocket that was used to take humans to the Moon for the first time to robotic servicing and refueling of satellites. The space domain is essential to the functioning of modern trade, the advancement of scientific knowledge, and the protection of the nation. The capability of making significant leaps forward in space technology is going to be necessary in order to improve the rate at which material can be transported to the Moon, and eventually, people will be able to travel to Mars. NASA started conducting research into nuclear thermal engines in 1959, which eventually led to the design and construction of NERVA, a solid-core nuclear reactor that they tested, and it was a great success. However, following the conclusion of the Apollo era in 1973 had a significant reduction in funding for the program, plans to fire the engine while it was in orbit were shelved and not pursued further. Nuclear engines are capable of firing for longer periods of time and with greater efficiency than their chemical equivalents, which enables rockets to travel further and more quickly. NEP, nuclear electric propulsions, are reactors that work by generating electricity that strips electrons from gases like xenon and krypton before being blasted out of the spacecraft's thruster like an ion beam. Nuclear thermal propulsion reactors use a fission reaction to heat a gas, commonly hydrogen or ammonia, so that it grows through a nozzle to provide thrust. This type of reactor is the one that NASA is looking into, and it is the first of 3 missions designed to test the hardware, software, and ground systems needed to one day build a base on the Moon and transfer the first humans to Mars. The Artemis 1 voyage was the first of these missions. After this initial test flight, Artemis 2 and Artemis 3 spacecraft are scheduled to take place in 2024 and either 2025 or 2026. Artemis 2 will make the same route as Artemis 1, but this time with a crew of 4 people. Artemis 3 will break records by sending the first woman and the first person of color to land on the surface of the Moon. Both of these accomplishments will take place at the lunar South Pole. It is a momentous occasion since it marks the beginning of a new generation's journey into space, specifically into deep space. After Artemis 1's launch, a NASA administrator made the following statement: one that heralds the arrival of cutting-edge technology, an entirely new class of astronauts, and a glimpse into the future. This is the plan for returning to the Moon in order to study there, live there, innovate there, and build there in order to investigate more. Here is some related information regarding the launch of NASA's Artemis 1. Artemis 1 is the most powerful rocket that has ever been built. Understanding Artemis 1 might help us understand how scientists intend on using nuclear-powered engines to get us to Mars safely and in record time. The Artemis 1 spacecraft cost $20 billion and is eventually going to carry astronauts to the moon. After a number of months of postponement, the most powerful space rocket that has ever been constructed finally lifted off from its launch pad in Florida. It is the first of 2 test voyages that will precede the mission that will take people to the moon for the first time since 1972. The Orion capsule, which has room for 6 people, sits atop the Space Launch System, which is 30 stories tall. Together, these 2 components form the $20 billion Artemis 1 rocket, SLS. Launching from Launch Pad 39B at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on November 16 at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Time, it set out on a journey to the lunar surface and back that would last 30 days and cover a distance of 1.3 million miles. The thrust generated by its rockets was approximately 8.8 million pounds. That is it for this video. If you found it interesting, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button so that you can keep updated on future posts. Thank you, and we will see you in the next one.